Welcome back to TAAP, the American Armory Podcast. I'm Chad.
I'm Michael.
And we've got another great episode for you today.
What are we going over today?
Gonna talk a little home defense. Going back to the we must defend this house.
We must defend the house.
Yes. So, it's a lot of people get firearms for home protection.
Well, yeah.
And which is a good thing. I'm all for that.
I agree.
But it's not one tool for the same job everywhere.
What do you mean?
So, you can't fix everything with a hammer. I know you like to.
Yeah, you might be able to.
It depends on the size of the hammer, I guess.
That's true.
But no, there's certain conditions where maybe one type of firearm is better than another type of firearm.
So my catapult I shouldn't always use to defend the house?
The black powder cannon, probably not good for...
If it's good enough for our pirates, it's good enough for me.
Could you imagine that? Someone coming in your front door and you're sitting there with a black powder cannon smiling? I think we got the wrong house.
No shit. The good news is they've shit themselves and they're never coming back.
Yeah. Well, I guess the other good news is black powder cannon. You don't need a FFL for that or anything.
That is true.
No tax stamp for that.
No tax stamp for a cannon, a catapult, or a ballista.
Yeah.
So go get them, guys.
Yep. They told me they wouldn't let me have a firearm, so I said, okay, I'll put a cannon in each window.
That's true.
So, first rule, and this is something that we've talked about in depth, but know the laws in your area.
Yeah, we can't stress that enough.
The lack of knowledge is not a defense.
Correct.
And ignorance is not bliss, especially when it comes to something serious like this. So, do your research, know the laws in your area. One thing I will say is the majority of states out there, and I don't know which ones don't have it, but I know there's probably a few, have castle doctrine.
Yep, that's defend your house.
Right.
We must defend this house.
Right. That essentially says that if you are in your house, you do not have an obligation to retreat.
Now, I'm going to caveat this with, you don't have an obligation to retreat or to move away or to try to disengage. If there's an intruder in your house, they broke in. Yeah, it is kind of fair game as far as castle doctrine goes. However, think.
And I know the big joke is someone breaks into the house. First thing I'm doing is let the bodies hit the floor on surround sound.
Yeah.
But no, and this is...
That's the equivalent to open carry, I'm just saying.
It is. It's their fair warning.
Yeah.
No, what I will say is this, again, is something very situational.
Yeah.
Me personally, I have a house and there's more people than just myself in my house.
Right.
And it's going to depend. If I'm the only one home,
right,
I'm probably going to go into a room and treat that as my defensive point. If they don't come into that room, take what you want. It's replaceable.
Yeah.
If you come into that room and you see me and you don't immediately leave and you start making aggressive movements, we're probably going to have a problem.
Yeah.
Now, the flip side of that is if I'm not home or if I'm not alone, I've got people in my house that could be on multiple floors.
Right.
In which case, me locking myself in a room isn't going to help them.
Right.
And the other people in my house aren't necessarily firearms people and able to handle them. So that's when it's going to fall to me to go on a little hunting trip potentially.
Right. So in your situation it's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to make sure that people are safe. So if someone's upstairs or someone, you need to get to them. You're going to start working on like a clearing to get there.
Right. I'm going to start clearing room by room on my way up to where I need to get to.
So if you have a house, so if you're with several people, or you have many different rooms, that's your situation. That's what you have to deal with. If you live alone, that's a different story. If you live alone, lock yourself in the back room. Mm-hmm. Don't, close the door, and if they come through, that's fine. My household's quite a bit different. You don't have to worry about the firearms in my house. My girls will get you.
Yeah. 2 dogs.
Yep. And
by the time they're done, you probably wish you were shot instead.
Yeah, that's probably true. So, I'm lucky. I'm lucky because I have those two. I have 2 girls that are very well trained, And we've tested them, and if you come in my house with a weapon, you're going to get 2 dogs mauling you pretty quick.
And your girls are equal opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
We've tested this out. I've taken a club or a bat or something and acted like I was going to hit someone in your family, one of my girls, and my girls are human girls, not dog girls. and they will get that clear. And they will growl and get in the way. And you know what? It's not just me. It's you. You've done the same thing to me, and they've done the same thing. They are very protective.
So just knowing that they know us and they still respond that way. If they don't know you and break in our house, when you see
you're
me,
going to be a chew toy.
Yeah, when you see me, you're probably going to say, take me out, please. I'm hurting.
And you know that is kind of leads me to something a little bit off the subject, but a good point for home defense. Dogs are a great deterrent.
They are.
I've got 2 dogs. One of them's little. She'll bite your ankles, maybe.
Right.
My other one is same size as your dog. You've known him since he was a pup and the size of my small one.
Right.
He's in the process of getting that now. He will, if he hears something outside, he will get up and bark, and he's got a pretty big, deep bark. That will deter people from going in, because once they hear that dog, they realize that it's not just open and go in and take what you want.
And they don't know how that dog is going to respond.
They don't know how big the dog is.
They don't know. You can't argue with a dog.
No.
That's so.
Now, if I was going to break into your house, I know what I'd do. I'd have a ball and some treats.
Yeah.
Although, if I take the ball, I'm not going to be able to take anything, because your one damn dog will go get the ball and keep bringing it back to me.
Right.
But no, dogs are a great deterrent. And you know, another thing, depending on how your house is set up, if you and your family are all in one section of the house, it's really easy to, if you hear something, open up that door and come to mom and dad's room or whatever it is, and that's your defensive point.
Right.
If you can all get in the same room quickly, you've got a good defensive point.
What I don't recommend, what I don't like, is I hate those signs in the front yard that says, you know, this property is protected by Smith & Wesson, or this is protected by Glock.
Trespassers will be shot.
You know, survivors shot again.
Yeah.
I don't like those signs. Don't get me wrong. I think they're funny. I laugh every time I see someone with it, and I think they're funny. My shirt, it's funny, but it's not true.
Which should really be my shirt, because I'm the one with the daughters.
Well, I have a daughter.
Yeah, you do have a daughter, but she's married. She's got someone else to protect her now.
Well, that's true. But I got this shirt when she was around.
Okay.
So I very rarely wear this shirt anymore, because I got it for her one time, and then I threw it in the closet. And
and it got buried, and
so that's why it looks still really good. So I wore it like 3 or 4 times just to tease her about it. But I don't like those signs, because you're advertising that you have guns, which means if someone decides that they're going to rob you, they know they have to come armed. They got to go big.
Well, B, they know you have guns. If they decide to rob you, they may watch and make sure that no one's in the house, because then they can get to your guns.
Right. So,
and you don't want your guns stolen. That's a whole nother issue and a whole bunch of bullshit you have to deal with.
With those ATF love you.
We love the ATF.
All right.
So, now, there's one thing I want to mention about Castle Doctrine.
Okay.
Because Castle Doctrine is strictly your house.
Right.
There's another law that if you're outside of your house, and it's in most states. There are some states that don't have this law, but I think most states have a law that says you have to make an attempt to retreat from the situation.
Right. Those are the stand your ground laws.
Yep, the stand your ground laws. So if you do not have stand your ground, that means you have to attempt to retreat. If you don't attempt to retreat, then you can be held liable and face all sorts of charges.
You see, and here's the thing: even if you have stand your ground where you're allowed to do that,
don't.
Yeah, I hate to say it that way, but no, don't. I always err on the side of caution, and I always will say, try to disengage. If you look out your window and someone's breaking into your car,
call 911.
Call 911. I would call 911. Now,
and don't tell them to bring a boss.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, you're just setting yourself up then, because now you've established intent and premeditation.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Now, if I hear something outside, and if I'm just going to investigate, there's nothing wrong with going outside and investigating your house.
Mm-hmm.
There's also nothing wrong with, even if you see someone breaking in your car, to yell, "Hey, I'm calling the police," because then they're going to stop what they're doing, know that you're awake, and then they're going to jump in their car and run away. But if you do happen to run out there, and if I'm checking the back property, I might have a bat in my hand. I may have my firearm on my. I might come home and I'm going, well, I don't know, make sure everything's locked up. And I just got home. I saw my pew pew on me, and I'm going to check the backyard. And next thing you know, someone's coming out of there and they have a baseball bat themselves or something like that. If they're coming at me, then it's go time. I don't want it to be go time. I would prefer you put my stuff. I would prefer you not being here
Right.
at all.
Now, I would bet dollars to donuts you'd be doing two things at that time, too. You'd be backing up and circling to one side or the other so it's not straight line.
Right.
One, you're then retreating because you're backing up.
Correct.
So they can't say, well, you didn't try and retreat. Well, no, I did. They were just coming at me real fast with a baseball bat, a knife, whatever it is. But no, they know the laws in your area because that can save you a whole lot of trouble. And not just that, the emotional toll that having to shoot someone can take on you.
Right.
You don't want to go through that. I know people that have had to do that, be it in military or law enforcement, and it messes with your head. It messes with your emotions. If you can avoid it, you want to avoid it.
Yeah, and there's joke. People make jokes on this, and yeah, we joke around too. We have a little bit of fun. You shoot someone at your door, make sure they fall inside.
Right.
If they fall outside, drag them inside.
Mm-hmm.
That's a joke, okay, guys?
Right.
I don't recommend doing it because forensics can tell how things went down.
Yep.
And even if they fell outside, because they came in and you just happened to be walking by your front door as they came in, and all of a sudden they're standing there with a gun or a bat or a whatever weapon, and you turn around and you shoot them and they fall outside. Generally, it's really quick. It's going to happen really quick. Powder burns. Forensic science have gotten so far that they can see exactly what happened. They can say, "Yep, the guy was here. He stumbled backwards. He fell here. So yes, he was technically inside your house." And blah blah blah. If you start to move the body, guess what? You're now contaminating a crime scene, and it's going to make them harder to
another charge.
Yeah.
And plus it screws with the forensics and their ability to determine what happened.
Joke about it, but never do it.
And it's again, it's you have to weigh a lot of things, and sometimes you have to weigh a lot of things quickly.
Yeah.
That is where I also think play situations in your head, and you and I do this all the time. I mean, when we're together, when we're not together, we're always playing situations in our head.
Oh yeah.
And if A happens, what am I going to do? If B happens, what am I going to do?
Right.
So know the laws in your area. Hopefully you never have to use it. I go back to the saying, I'd rather have a firearm on me and never have to use it than need it and not have it.
I say it's a parachute rule.
What's the parachute rule?
You don't know what the parachute rule is?
I'm sure I do, but...
If you go skydiving, you better have a parachute on.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're only skydiving once.
Yeah.
That's it. You get into a gunfight and you don't have a gun.
Yeah. You're probably not winning that gunfight.
Yeah.
Unless you're really good at something.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
And this isn't Hollywood in the movies for most of us.
No, this isn't. So I would rather have it on me and never use it than to not have it and need it.
Yep.
Because the bad guys are going to carry a gun. They don't pay attention to laws. They don't give a crap about, what's legal,
they don't care who they hurt.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some things for defending your house.
Yeah.
And this we can go on for hours and hours, and we may have a follow-up show to this, a couple follow-up shows. We're going to stick real basic on this one. We're not going to dive too deep into anything.
Okay.
I think each of these subjects that we're going to talk about, we can probably do a deep dive into at some point. But first one, and this is going back to the rules of firearm safety, know your target and what's behind your target. Over-penetration. These are little freedom pellets that are moving real fast.
Yeah.
And some of them are made differently than others. Some are made to impact with something and pass through it.
Right.
Some are made to impact something, depart all that energy, and only go 8, 12 inches. So know what your situation is. If you're in a house or an apartment, wherever it is that you consider your dwelling, what type of walls do you have? If you're in an apartment, I can almost guarantee those are going to be real thin walls.
Yeah, very little insulation. You could hear your neighbors in there having a good old time.
Yes.
So
and even if you're in your house, I mean, I know that if I come out of my room, if there's a threat there are certain directions that I don't necessarily want to be shooting in that direction.
Oh yeah.
Because there may be someone on the other side of the wall that is the backstop for that.
I think you're going to have more problems in apartments or condos, townhomes, something
because they're going to be
that.
more. One, they're going to have thinner walls, and they're going to be more cramped.
If you live in the middle of nowhere, on a ranch 3 miles away from your nearest neighbor,
pull out the 50 caliber.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Just remember 811. Dig before you
call before you dig.
Before you dig, yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing to remember is drywall isn't necessarily cheap to replace.
Yeah. Neither is a 2x4 if you
no.
shoot.
Yeah, if you hit one of those and shatter it.
Yep.
So know what you have for your house, what type of round you're using, what the penetration is, what the ballistics are on that round. I've got a good friend that he's not a gun person. He has a gun. He's got a 30-06, and he's always told me, well, this is the only gun I need. And I said, well, if someone breaks into your house, well, I'll shoot him with my 30-06. Well, yeah, you'll shoot them, the 5 people behind them, the neighbor across the street.
So
because that bullet's going fast, it's made to go through things.
And it is. So we disagree with a little bit on this one still too, because I'm saying if you're not used to carrying pistols and you don't like handguns and you're used to rifles and you've gone deer hunting but you don't like handguns and that's all you have to defend yourself, I would rather. It's better to be tried by 12 than carried by 6.
Right, and I agree with you. If that's all you have, then that's all you have, and something's better than nothing.
Right.
But at the same time, I would rather him have an insightful conversation with me about this. And if he likes rifles, okay, let's go get you a good carbine so that you're firing a handgun round out of it. Or let's get you something that isn't a 30-06 so you're not going to blow holes in things for the next 500 yards.
And I could agree with you that. I get it. So guns are expensive. You could if you just want to get a gun to do it, when you buy a firearm, make sure that you understand what that's going to be used for. In that situation, I would suggest investing in a bat then.
Yeah.
And then take a bat and right through them.
Yep. Take a bat and pretend they're a baby seal.
Yep. Tasers work great. They give the shock of their life.
Yeah.
So
in that case, me personally, if that was all I had, I'd almost rather use pepper spray.
Yeah.
Or something like that, because
pepper spray, taser, something along those. A baseball bat would be even better.
Yeah, because the
hockey stick, whatever you got.
There's the old saying that every bullet you fire has a lawyer attached to it. And
that's true.
If you could be completely in the right, someone breaking into your house.
Yep.
But if you shoot them and that round continues on and hits your neighbor's house and hits someone there and kills them as well, or doesn't kill them, just wounds them, guess what? You got problems.
So chances are you're going to you can possibly get sued for something like that. But there's also a few laws that are on the books of generally if someone's attacking you and you go to shoot to defend yourself, you're not the one that caused the situation. Generally, the person who caused the situation is the one that's going to take the fault. Now,
unless you live in a real liberal area.
That's true, and then that's still. I would always it's caution. Just be smart.
Right. So and again, we're staying real basic on this. Know what you're getting, what its fire pattern is. If it's a shotgun, for example. And you're using buckshot, because that'll act differently than if you're using a slug.
Yeah.
Know how your firearm operates, what it's going to shoot through, what it's not going to shoot through, and be careful.
Right.
Like I said, there's a tool for every job. Some tools are better than others. for the particular job.
For a lot of things.
It does. In this case, the hammer is that 30-06. He's got a big, powerful hammer. Let's get into some other things. The layout of your house.
Yeah.
One, know the layout of your house.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking, well, I've got the living room here, and then there's a hallway, and the bedroom, and a bathroom, and this, that, and the other. Know where your furniture is. Know where angles are.
Yeah.
I've gone through my house and looked at it, thinking, okay, if I have to clear my house, here's how I'm going to do it. Coming out of this area, here's what my angles are and how I need to sweep it.
Yeah. Even more basic than that, understand where the safest spot in your house is, and I'll be honest, get to it. Mm-hmm. That is your best bet.
And again, situational. It depends on if it's just you or if you have everyone that you need to get safe with you.
The whole idea here is don't play Rambo.
No.
Don't think that, oh, I get it now. Now I get to shoot somebody. That should never, ever be your reasoning.
No, because what happens if you hear something upstairs and you grab your trusty little pew-pew there and you go upstairs thinking, well, it's one, maybe two people, and there's 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah.
And they all have guns too. You're now heavily outgunned.
So here's my problem now. Wait till you line up and you get that 30-06.
And take all of them in one shot.
Problem solved. I think your buddy's onto something.
You 5 back. Could you just move to the right a little bit?
All right, form a line.
Yeah.
Thank you. Number 3.
Single file.
Number 3, can you bend down just a little bit? Okay, perfect.
Squat down just a little. You're too tall.
Say cheese. Wait for the flash.
Yeah, but I guess it could happen, but no, you don't want to go looking for the fight. But
no.
But at the same time, if the fight happens, be prepared for it.
Yeah. Again,
knowing your house, and other thing to take into consideration when you're looking at, if you haven't gone out and gotten something specifically for home defense. Another thing to think about is what type of rooms are in your house. Do you have a room with it's a bunch of small rooms and hallways? Do you have a room that is maybe something more modern where it's a bunch of big open spaces? That can change what's going to work best for you, because if you're in small cramped areas, you probably don't want a big long rifle.
Yeah.
It's hard to maneuver around with one of those.
There's also a few other things here too. So what's on the other side of that wall? Is that the gas stove?
Right.
Do I want to shoot? Is that smart?
Is the water heater on the other side of that wall?
Right. Now I got to call the police while I'm waiting for the police. Mm-hmm. The plumber's coming over.
Yeah.
And then I accidentally shot the electrical in my house, and I've got a short.
Right.
Here's the thing. My goal is never to shoot somebody.
Right.
That's my goal.
My goal is never to shoot anything I don't intend to shoot.
I'm hoping I never have to shoot anybody ever again. That's what I hope. Well, that's a whole other story.
Whole other story there,
but
no. And again, I go back to the water heater. Have you ever seen what happens when a water heater rapidly depressurizes?
Oh, yeah. Boom.
Yeah. You've got a rocket, potentially.
Yeah, you do. So I'm hoping I never get in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to need everybody's cooperation on this.
What we're saying is don't come to either of our houses with bad intentions.
Please
no, because I don't have time for the paperwork that's going to require.
Neither do I. I really don't want to do it.
But no, know your house, how it's set up, what the rooms are like, and like I said, if you haven't gotten that home protection weapon, keep that in mind when you go to get that home protection weapon.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with getting something that is multi-use,
right?
But make sure it's truly multi-use,
right,
and not a hindrance. So next thing we're going to get to, can you see what you're shooting? Most break-ins, especially now that a lot of people are working from home, happen at night.
Right.
It's also dark at night.
Yep.
Which makes it very hard to see.
So set up a strobe light system.
Yeah, there we go. A little dance party in the house.
Right.
Play some nice European techno disco thrash, and
get your dark goggles on and then just like blind everybody with a light and
Yeah. So you've got a couple of options. One, and I didn't bring my personal home weapon with me because I wasn't planning on shooting this one tonight. But one, if we take a look at this, and we're just going to make sure it's clear, and it is. You've got a nice rail system right here. You can mount a light on that.
Let me throw that right over here. See this rail right here? So you could have a flashlight. Some have lasers there. Some have a red dot on this top that will help as well.
Now, a red dot isn't going to illuminate things, but it will help you acquire that target real quick.
Yeah. It helps in the middle of the night. Something to see on. But yeah, flashlight here. Also, if you're going through here, you could have...
Do the old police like FBI with the flashlight.
Can you tell what I did in a previous life? All right.
So there's that. And those are two good options, whichever you're more comfortable with. Personally, I prefer the light on the front of the gun. It does add some weight up there, but it also lets me put both hands on it to get that secure grip.
See, and there's another difference. I actually prefer the flashlight separate because I want to hold that separate. Because if I hold the flashlight, I'm going to go on camera, firearms here, flashlights here, I might go wider. If they're going to shoot and they're shooting at the flashlight, there's a good chance they're going to miss me. But if they shoot at me, I will be returning fire.
Yeah. Well, the other nice thing about the ones that you mount on your firearm is most of them have a strobe function, which will blind the shit out of you. I know, I've tried it with mine.
That's true. Blinding them would be good. So flashlights are always good.
Flashlights are good. Then your last option is you're going through rooms, turning the lights on as you go through the room, which isn't necessarily good because if there is someone in your house, they see those lights turning on. Now, could be good, could be a deterrent where they decide they're up and about, we better get out of here.
Right.
Could be bad in that now they know where you are.
Well, see, that's the good thing is I have a hallway that has multiple switches on there. So if most people are going to realize that I'm going to be in one of the bedrooms anyway, let's be honest.
Right.
You break into my house in the middle of the night, it's going to be
probably going to be sleeping.
Unless you catch me working late in the office.
Right.
And that's a whole other ballgame.
Yeah. Then you're really in trouble.
Yeah. Then I got to choose. But it's what it's going to come down to is I could turn on that hallway light, and then I could still hide in the dark and just use a little bit of low light from there.
Yeah.
You don't have to turn if you have dimmer switches or something like that, or lower lights, you can do that.
Yep, you can turn them on and keep them dim so it's not real bright.
I'm not a big fan of all the smart stuff, but I kind of am getting into a smart light system where you can just, I have an app that I could turn on my lights in another room, and I will tell you if I see someone like trying to, at my door and trying to break in, and I'm in the back bedroom, I might turn on that living room light from my cell phone and say, hey, and they're going to see the light go on, think someone's there, and hopefully run off. My goal is to make the bad guy go away. Don't mess with me.
Yep.
Please.
Either way, they're going away. It's just a matter of whether they go away by choice or by force.
Yeah. I would prefer...
By choice.
I would prefer less paperwork, less invasions, less police that I have to deal with. I'm not anti-police. I love police. I love police all the time.
I do too. I love police, but I don't need you coming into my house investigating a shooting.
No shit.
Because you want to talk about a long time?
Yeah. I'm not going to get any sleep.
Yeah. I know people that have had to do that. I'm friends with plenty of people that are former police officers, and one of them was homicide, and he's told me stories about, if you have a shooting in your house, you can expect us to be there for the next 12 to 24 hours easy.
Yep.
Just collecting evidence, taking pictures, getting interviews.
Go get a friggin' hotel to spend the night somewhere to sleep because your house is a crime scene.
Yep.
It's not worth the effort.
No.
So please leave me alone.
Yeah, I don't want you here.
Right.
And you don't want to be here, so you may think you want to be here, but...
Be smart. Don't start at my house.
Stupid games get you stupid prizes.
Yep.
So, then we get into what do you choose? And like we've said several times, this is all going to come down to personal preference.
Yeah.
And I even myself go back and forth on what would I grab? And I think, again, it's going to depend on the situation. It's going to depend on what happens to be closest to me at that time, because the closest one is always the most available one.
Yeah.
But
I just hope it never happens in this room.
They would be confusing in this room. You'd have a lot of choices to make.
Now you guys see a flag on the background, but this is we're called the American Armory Podcast, and we're kind of in an armory here.
Except for it's not a firearms armory. It's a whole lot of pointy, stabby, sticky, blunt objects that would really hurt.
Yeah, I've got it just about. If it's a melee or
and
might be fun.
And
I just don't want to do that though.
I kind of have the same thing in a section of my house where I've got all my stabby sticks, and I'm a knife fanatic. Before I really started collecting a lot of pew-pews, I was collecting knives and things like that. So I say, okay, do I want to grab the pew-pew, or should I grab something stabby and or choppy or?
And that's the thing. Again, it might not be even if you live in a bad spot where you can't really get a maneuver, or I hate to say it, if you live in California, New York, or Illinois, or
one of those commie states,
you might not have this choice, and then maybe a baseball bat or
a good solid stick, knife, or whatever it is, something to defend yourself with. But let's get back to the pew-pews. And pros and cons of the three major type. And when I say three major type, I look at it as pistol, rifle, shotgun.
Okay.
I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of the different types of pistols, different types of shotguns, different types of rifles. Just basic pistol, rifle, shotgun. So with pistol, you definitely get the maneuverability.
Right.
You don't have to worry about tight quarters, because you can take that and you can hold it in tight like this if you have to and fire it.
Right.
So most of them you also get a pretty decent amount of firepower as far as rounds that you have.
Right.
This one right here, this mag is a 12 round, and it also has a 15 in it.
Right.
It's a 9mm now. 9mm, you can get those up to crazy numbers.
Yeah, you can. So it's pistol, rifle, shotgun, right? I've got to ask you. Let's start with you.
Well, before we get to me, let's go over the pros and cons of these. So, So the downside
maneuverability.
That's a big pro. Amount of rounds is a big pro, because most of them are going to have several rounds.
Right.
And most of them you can fire those rounds off fairly quick.
Right.
The cons to it.
It's small.
It's small. Pistol rounds aren't the best rounds for if there's a threat.
Correct.
They are not now. You can get some of them that are really good and leave real nasty wound cavities.
Yep.
But in general, it's not something that you're going to fire one round, hit them, and they're going to drop.
Well, and because they're smaller, it's easier to. If you start fighting over a pistol, there's not a lot to fight over.
Right. You don't have a lot of area for two-hand control there, especially if there's two of you.
Correct.
Four hands on that is going to eat it up real quick.
Yeah. And accuracy. Pistol. Out of these, pistol versus rifle, the accuracy is going to be great on a rifle as opposed to a
because
pistol.
When you're talking about accuracy, actually, let's go down to this right here. You're talking about your sight radius. So from your rear sights to your front sight. The longer that distance, the more accurate you're going to be.
Right.
So this doesn't have a real long sight radius.
Not only that, but if you keep a look on this, the bullets here, I
don't have a lot of barrel there.
You don't have a lot of barrel. That's your barrel. A rifle, you're quite a bit.
No, rifle, you're typically 16 inches plus.
Yep.
So yeah, there's
rifle.
Rifle pros. Great stopping power in most rifles.
Oh yeah.
And we're talking in general. There are some rifles. If you've got a 22 rifle, you're not getting stopping power out of that. But
correct.
But most rifles have great stopping power.
If you get a carbine rifle that shoots a 9mm 40 caliber 45, you still have you basically get the benefits of a pistol cartridge that has a better accuracy, better control. You actually have better control on a rifle.
It's moving faster because you've got a longer barrel.
Right.
Now, a carbine wouldn't be my first choice. I would take either a pistol or something else before a carbine, probably.
I'd take a carbine in a heartbeat.
But talking strictly rifles, and rifle rounds, most of them you still have that multiple shot ability.
Right.
Unless you've got a bolt action and there's multiple people, in which case you're screwed.
Right.
You got one shot and then you got a big club.
That's true.
The downside to them is rifles are big and long. Maneuverability becomes an issue.
Right. Know your house. You have to. That's where we have to say, if you don't have enough room for a rifle to be moving around, or for that matter, a shotgun as well, you could have that. You could have a potential problem of, by the time you come around the corner, that barrel is going to come around the corner before you do.
Right. And
so
if they grab that barrel and get a hold of it, then you're in a fight for the firearm situation again.
I want to say rifles and shotguns have the same kind of pros and cons.
They do, and they don't, I think. We'll get into shotguns here in a minute. My other concern with rifles is, again, most rifle rounds are very powerful.
Right.
And think about hunting. If you go deer hunting, and I don't know if any of you have been deer hunting, but a big buck, you can put a rifle round through that fairly easy.
Right.
And that's a whole lot of meat, bone, muscle, tissue. A lot thicker than the thickness of a human being as well. Which means you can put that through them, the wall behind them, the wall behind that potentially. So that's, again, you have to know your situation. And are you home alone? Well, then it's not going to matter as much as long as you're willing to fix the holes in the wall.
So rifles are two categories on here, because you have the carbine rifles and the regular rifles.
Well, I would put the carbine rifles more in with the pistols just because they're firing a pistol round. I'm talking more the round that they fire here, I guess, than...
Oh, okay.
Because to me, a carbine is a hybrid.
Yeah.
And...
Indoor, I prefer a pistol round. Just my personal preference.
Now, shotgun. So shotgun you run into, as far as a con, kind of same thing with a rifle, where a shotgun is a longer firearm. Now, that being said, if you know how to maneuver it, you can get around some of that, but that takes a lot of practice.
So shotgun's a little bit different on here, because one of the pros, and I'm not talking about a semi-automatic shotgun, I'm talking about a pump-action shotgun. There is something eerie about a pump-action shotgun at 2 o'clock in the morning in a quiet
And you hear it
house.
being racked.
That you hear that rack, and you're like, oh shit.
Now, I wouldn't bet my life on it, but again, it's a nice deterrent.
Yeah. Again, to me, it's all deterrent though. The dogs, the shotguns, the open carrying, everything I'm doing is to deter someone stupid from making me have to go through a lot of crap.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? If I grab my pump action shotgun and rack that, and they hear it, I'm really hoping that they heard that and thought, oh shit, he means business. I better leave.
Yeah. Now that doesn't mean I'm gonna rack. I might. You know what? I might keep it by my side of the bed. I might rack it and then go to my pistol and rack
Right,
it.
exactly. Now, here's kind of the benefit you get with a shotgun that you don't get with pistol or rifle.
More repairs?
Well, potentially.
Yeah.
But you get vastly different types of ammunition. I mean, a pistol or a shotgun is going to fire one projectile.
No.
On each trigger pull.
Nope.
Well, most of them. You can get specialty rounds that will do other things, which most of those I've seen I wouldn't recommend for home defense. They're mainly for small varmints, squirrels, rats, things like that.
But they do exist.
Right. But I'm talking in more general terms. So with a shotgun, you've got a couple different options. You've got slug, buckshot, or birdshot.
Flame flower, whatever that is.
The dragon's breath?
That dragon's breath.
Yeah, I don't want to start my house on fire.
Yeah, but it's cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if they're holding a can of gasoline, maybe. And outside of my house, I don't want to burn my house down.
Someone comes through mine, out of the hallway, you see some fucking fire come through like a friggin' torch. I'd turn around and leave it. Again, all against deterrent for me, so sorry.
Yeah, but you also have to now call 911 and call the fire and have the fire department sent out.
I got fire extinguishers. I'm quick.
They can burn stuff real quick. I've seen them. But anyway, the main three categories that you have for a shotgun are going to be your birdshot, buckshot, and slug.
Yep.
And they've got their pluses and minuses with them too. A slug, you shoot someone with a slug, it's one big heavy projectile.
Right.
If you hit them, they're probably not getting up.
Correct.
But it's also going to go through them and a few other things because it's big, it's heavy, it's moving with some force.
But if you line them up with their car, you can take them out and their engine block.
Yes, you can. Birdshot is a bunch of little BBs.
I like that.
Yeah. Here's the good thing about birdshot is it's a whole lot that spreads out, and if you're close enough to someone, they're not getting up from that either.
Yeah.
But the problem is it'll get a spread to it.
You got to spread it probably about there, and if you go
depending on how far.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're talking clearing a house though.
Yeah.
If you're clearing a house, their spread is going to be right about here. So if I take this and I move it, you see, I have a lot of room to be around there. So
now in my house, if I'm shooting from one side of my house to the other side of my house, I may get a spread probably like this.
Even when you're going with birdshot, your spread at shooting at clay pigeons are going to be about yay big. You don't get as much spread as a shotgun as you think.
Well, the other thing you can do is you can get a choke and put on it and tighten that up.
That's what I recommend.
The other nice thing about the birdshot is if you are off a little bit and you hit the wall behind them, it's going to leave little dimples in the wall that you get some
Spackle.
mud and you mud it and you sand it and repaint it. Now, personally, what my favorite of the three is buckshot.
But then you that's more wall repair. I thought you said you wanted to save drywall.
Well, if it's saving drywall or saving a family member, fuck the drywall.
Birdshot.
I don't like the idea of birdshot in my house. But buckshot is a bunch of decent sized balls. They're double-up buckshot. What caliber is that? I've heard a bunch of different, anywhere from 32 to 45 caliber.
Generally, they're like 32 is about what it is. I want to say the same with one of my. I have a 36 caliber black powder rifle, and they're small, a little bit smaller than that.
Okay.
So
yeah, it's not real big, but it's also 8 to 9 of them.
Yeah.
And they stay fairly closer than birdshot.
Yeah.
And so you're looking at this
right.
with 8 or 9, call it 32 to 36 caliber balls. That's going to tear someone up.
Well, that's why. And shotguns, you have a little bit better, loading. You have, buckshot, birdshot, slug.
For if they keep getting up.
Right. Yeah,
but
on multiple targets.
Yeah.
Would you load a blank first and just for that warning shot?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. If I am going to fire that trigger or fire that firearm, regardless of what it is, I'm not doing here's your warning blank, because if I get to that point where I have to pull the trigger, something's going down.
Technically, that's supposed to be the correct answer. It was a test. Make sure you're not trying to shoot blanks. Don't shoot in the air. Don't shoot in the ground.
Right.
Don't fire a warning shot.
No.
Don't do it.
If you get to that point where you have to draw that firearm, punch it out, and level on someone, you're at that point. You're at the point of no return. You're shooting them.
The threat is real. The threat is immediate. The threat is a problem. So,
right.
All right.
So, but yeah, for my home defense shotgun, I load double-aught buckshot.
That's what you use? Mm-hmm. Okay.
For my shotgun. Now, you asked me earlier what my preference is for home defense.
Yeah.
Not this one. I've got one that's a little bit bigger than that, and it has the light on it, and it's got a red dot on it. Okay. So I get real quick target acquisition on that, and if there's multiple targets spread out in the room, the nice thing about that red dot is I can see the whole room. I'm not getting that tunnel vision on the sights, and I can move from target to target quick. And I like the handgun just because it's maneuverable.
Right.
I have a decent amount of rounds. If I happen to go through that first magazine and need more, this isn't that big to carry around with me, too.
That's true. That's true.
So what about you? What's your...
typically it's whatever I was carrying, and it's on my
whatever's within reach.
In my side safe is whatever's there. So, and it could be everything from a Derringer to a Glock, a pistol, a carbine. I do like the carbines. I got a 9mm carbine. I think that's great, and I keep that in a safe right next to me so that grab and go. Nice.
And I like carbines too. That you get the benefit of that longer barrel, so that round moves faster. You have better accuracy because you have that longer sight radius.
Yep.
But I class when we're talking about this, when we're talking about this, I'm looking more at the type of round as opposed to is it a carbine rifle. I'm similar. It's my first option, especially if it's an immediate threat, is what can I get my hands on first?
If I happen to have one of my little 22 revolvers and one of my Heritage arms, if that's what's there, sometimes it's whatever it is. So
now, you may grab something else on the way too.
That's true.
Because we both have things kind of planned out a little bit where things are strategically placed and
right.
But no,
and the plan can change. I mean, if I come through and I see the guy walk through the kitchen and I see it's like a little kid, don't let that trick you. Don't let that trick you. Eyes can play tricks on you in the middle of the night. I want to say my first thing is when if someone's in my house and I see them moving around, my first response might be say, police are already on their way. Run now, run quick.
Here's your warning.
And if they want to try to come toward me, well, I'm going to have to do what I have to do.
Right.
And I don't want that paperwork.
Yep. And with me, it'd probably be something along the same lines. Police are on their way. Yep. I'd probably tell them on the ground. And again, if they turn and start moving towards me in an aggressive manner, which you're in my house, you're uninvited, so any movement towards me, I'm going to probably take as aggressive.
See, we're different there. You'd say get on the ground. I'm telling them to leave. And here's the reason. I don't want them to get down and then think, oh, now I'm going to get squirrely. If they run and get out of the house, the chance of them turning around and saying, well, is a lot less than if they're laying in the ground still in the house.
Well, and I guess my thought on it is, if I tell them to run, sometime within the next week, they're going to be doing this to someone else. And what if they break into old lady Jenny's house down the street, and then she wakes up and she has a broom, and they decide, well, I'm just going to wallop her, and they beat her to death?
Hey, Jenny, I would suggest a 1911, depending on your hand size.
Yeah.
Maybe a Glock. Mechanic's a really good gun.
Yeah.
Very safe. Has a lot of safety features.
Mm-hmm. And very reliable.
Very reliable. Pick one of these up. Don't have to use a broom. Use those for the mice. Use these for the rats.
Yep. But yeah, it's, once they're down, I'm going to tell them, you move and try and get up. You're not getting up.
I have handcuffs. I'll just handcuff them.
Well, I don't want to get that close to them because if they try something, of course you have, other people that can do that in the house as well.
I have dogs.
Yeah, you have dogs you move, the dogs will eat you.
Yes.
Raven, Bon?
See this guy? He has 2 balls here. Yeah. Find him.
Go find his balls. Although I will tell you, I love Raven to death, and all you have to do is stick her ass end towards them, and she's either going to beat them to death with her tail, or she's going to gas them out.
Well, the tail is one thing. The tail is okay. I have to be careful because if she comes out and that, I don't know what the chemical warfare is on this state.
Yeah.
I really don't. And
you could get charged with a war crime.
That could be a war crime. Her ass could be a war crime.
Yeah.
So
all right. Well, one story before we're done, because it's relevant. It's a story from many, many years ago. I was in a firearms class, and one of the girls there, and she was a fairly petite girl.
Okay.
Said, if I'm going to get something for my house for home defense, what should I get?
Desert Eagle.
No, the story's even better. But the instructor in this class was a sheriff in a neighboring town.
Okay.
Or a neighboring county. And she said, do I get a .38 revolver because that's what we were using in class to learn, and or should I get something that is different? Should I get a rifle? And he said, if you really want to scare someone, get a double-barreled 12 gauge. Take it to a gunsmith, have it cut down to legal limit.
Okay.
And
keyword
legal limit, yes. We're not now. If you can get your hands on an old Coach gun, those are historic. They're legal. But it has to be an original Coach gun, not a replica.
Yeah.
But anyway, yep, legal limit. Get it cut down to that. And he said, what's going to happen if someone breaks into your house and you fire that? This almost goes back to your dragon's breath. You're going to shoot a flame about this big out the front end of that 12 gauge, And even if you don't hit them, they're going to shit themselves and leave.
Yeah.
Difference is that flame's not going to drop down onto the floor and start your house on fire.
Those flames, I've shot a couple of those dragon's breaths. It's like a flash.
So have I, yeah.
It's like a flash, and it goes away.
Yeah, it's not long lasting, but it does still have it's metal filaments that are starting on fire, and those can burn and land on the ground. But
it's not like I'm going to use a flamethrower to do that. Flamethrowers are legal in the state, just to let you know. I wouldn't recommend using that for home defense.
I don't know. I could see me coming out of a room with a flamethrower shouting, "You're going to burn in hell!"
No.
Then again, I'd start my house on fire.
If my wife finds like a whole house of arachnids in this house, then we're...
Yeah, you're probably having to get out the flamethrower.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that probably takes us to the end of it.
That does. I think that's the end of the show. So make sure you always be safe and shoot straight.
And we'll see you next time. Rock, paper, scissors for cleaning it?
See.
Oh,
my turn.